Can AAA games truly be saved? Now, Grums thinks so, and he, in his own words, puts together a foolproof plan. One of these days. One of these days, Alice. He puts together a what a great way to start a video. He puts together a foolproof plan to take part in this experiment. And he outlines what he's calling a foolproof plan to make it happen. Now, there's a lot of context and a lot of history, and I know a lot of other content creators have covered this to no end, so I don't want to relitigate the literal last month and a half, 2 months since Gamergate 2.0 really kicked into high gear. But I thought I'd spend some time today breaking down this thread and talk about what it means for us as gamers. And the good news is there's a lot of great things to play. But let's kick it off. This starts off of a video that Asmongold had recently released, talking about how publishers are really screwing over some of these games, and they're taking advantage of no regulatory processes. And this was, I think, a reaction to Upper Echelon. So in the world of content creation, everything kind of stacks up on itself. But Grums goes on to say, AAA games are being overrun with woke politics. Now, woke is a very divisive word for a reason. There's a lot of people who would consider themselves woke as the idea that we should better humanity and we should make and try to lift up everybody in this regards. Now, that word has been co-opted by more of the right, and so you end up having this divisive word where they use it in this case usually ends up meaning cultural Marxism, which has really truly taken over kind of the woke movement. So the woke isn't a monolith by any means. It's a lot of different people who think that the word means a lot of different things, and it has the same thing is true about the anti-woke mindset. So it ends up just being division for division's sake. But when it's said and done, in the context that he's using it, I agree. We've seen a lot of activists have entered into the field, both in terms of the game and the game development, but also within the media that surrounds game development. And the scariest thing out of all of this entire situation is that despite all of them trying to be revisionist to history, to how this truly kicked off, no one has thought on that side to issue an apology and say, you know what, maybe targeting and harassing people was just a step too far. And the fact that that hasn't happened tells me that they're fully bought in, and you know, that's their team, and they're gonna play until the until the whistle. Anyway, it says lousy live service where it doesn't belong, and $130 Ubisoft triple or quadruple games with ugly female characters for no reason. There are two main causes for this. Number one, ESG-based funding, and number two, fleet of activist game devs. Now, number two is strengthened by the activists that live within journalistic media as well, because they can use that as a tool. And we see this time and time again. I've covered it here on this channel, especially when it related to Final Fantasy 16. They were trying to hit Final Fantasy 16 because it lacked diversity. And so that is something, and they'll go back and forth. You can never be too woke enough. You can never be fully, like, they're always going to ask for more and demand more. And so it ends up being kind of, it is a pickle. I mean, I guess for lack of a better word. But so I would actually just add number three, the media, onto this list that is kind of feeding both of them. Now, ESG is going away. It has not been shown to be profitable. And so investment firms, that is drying up, and the cost of cheap capital is going up, making it so that game devs, and the industry as a whole, because we're seeing this across all forms of entertainment, is kind of contracting right now. And this was always going to happen with how the numbers have all been working out. But he continues, but ESG funding is drying up. My CEO and studio head sources tell me that games have to make real money now, and games can't be propped up by DEI funds. Now, DEI stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, which also stands for dogma and entertainment industry, I guess. When it's all said and done, like, this is where the words have double meanings. In the context of how Grums is looking at it, as DEI is legal racism. It is literally, that is what it does. It separates, it hires based off of class rather than merit. And it's not to say that we shouldn't work to get more people and more diversity in through like training and education, and those are great programs that we can definitely look to bring in those people. But DEI in and of itself, poisons the pot. It completely ruins the setup, and thus it makes it it tries to shift it from equality of opportunity to equality of outcome. And that in and of itself is incredibly dangerous, and we've seen it kill millions and millions and millions of people on this planet before, and it can happen again. Anyhow, they says they keep pushing for their woke policies, lousy gameplay, while charging us more for it. I'm calling out on all gamers for a 2-year moratorium on buying AAA games being made by woke studios. Puberty. It's something, right? Anyhow, this will make the execs take notice. The attacks on the core problem at the top of gaming. Play your old Steam game libraries instead. You have years of games that you've bought on sale and never played. Play them now, or back AAA or AA indie games. And that's kind of where we've seen the industry shift. In fact, we've actually seen 60% of gameplay that is spent on games that are 6 years old or older in actually 2023. So older TV shows are also dominating streaming networks. And this is not by coincidence, as Grum points out. This is based off of prioritizing wokeness over quality, and AAA have also prioritized profit and the narrative over fun. And this is why he wants to fight. He continues on, as you vote with your wallet, sales will plummet even further. Promise. Every gaming CEO will notice. It's absolutely true. But again, the converse is, if the game is fun, generally speaking, there has not been a successful video game boycott against any fun games. Just look at the incredible success of the Harry Potter game, in which that it got a ton of hate, and that only just gave it free marketing because it brought it into kind of the mass market. The mass market is a quiet market. You watching this video, I hate to break it to you, chances are you're not a part of the mass market. The mass market is silent. It's just off there in the corner. They see a game advertised and they decide whether they want to pick it up or not. But there is that's just the true reality when it's said and done. Anyway, he says, now's the time to handle the fleet of developer activists who are ruining your favorite IPs. The sales will plunge and the pressure on the studios will be forced to trim the fat. Forced sales are so low on woke AAA games that they must lay off 20% of their lowest performing staff. Why does this work? Because activists tend to be the lowest performers in companies. AAA teams are bloated with them, and they do the least amount of work and the worst work. My sources tell me that it is already happening, but you can accelerate it. You don't need them, and you can see what Elon did to Twitter by laying off massive amounts of his staff. And he finally finishes up with, you stop buying AAA games for just 2 years. I promise you this will change everything. You solve the executive money problem, you solve the activist problem, you hit them from the top and the bottom, and then you will restore AAA games. And that's it. That's my plan. And I'm giving it to you now, and now it is in your hands. And so only time will tell. Like, this will be very interesting for me. Like, I'm rooting for it. I want to see gaming return to more of an apolitical viewpoint, where that doesn't mean games can't tell political stories, but when you have the media, when you have the gatekeepers, and you see these people who will not acknowledge, it's not here's the real thing. They think they're being empathetic, but they're absolutely not. They're being what would be a good example of toxic compassion, where you have, compassion for one side but not the other. Empathy would be an expansion, looking at both sides and saying, like, both sides have a valid point. There has been historical injustices, and there are ways to rectify them. But DEI and these methods aren't the cure. More racism doesn't cure racism. It's only adding in that. And the numbers show this out. So I think it's a function of time. The question ends up being is that what will you do? So choice is always going to be up to you. When it comes to video game boycotts, I haven't seen anyone successful yet. However, there has been a lot of frustration in the gaming industry. So time will tell. And we'll keep the voice cracks here. We'll keep an eye out on it and keep you guys up to date. Thanks so much for your time today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. But until then, take care.